Welcome to Heart Powered Conversations. Today, my guest is Ashmi Pathela. She's an artist, author, and multidimensional guide who writes about awakening and anchoring the light during this monumental shift of consciousness on Earth. In 2007, she left a thriving career in Silicon Valley to follow her heart, which led to the creation of her first book, Awakening the Heart of Humanity, which features her beautiful art and her words that are like the balm to the soul. And today she supports others on their journey back to their hearts and embodying all that they are through her writing, online guided ceremonies, courses, and membership community. And she's now in the process of writing her second book. And I have to add that Ashmi is someone I connected with almost 3 years ago. And it was, as I mentioned in my interview with Joanna, who is also a heart guide for others. Ashmi was one of the humans on earth that I saw as this light bulb. And as my guide said, there are many of you that have been strategically positioned around the earth as these light bulbs, as these heart lights, and you all have a similar but different message, and you will all connect. And I've known I would start this podcast for 3 years. I've resisted it a lot. And I've known from the very start that Ashmi would be one of the first people that I would have on to have this conversation about the heart. So welcome, Ashmi.
Thank you so much, Kat. And it's beautiful to connect in this way and actually meet you face to face, virtually. And yeah, congrats on also following your heart and sharing your beautiful writings and wisdom. It's been amazing to see all these people around the world, yeah, listening to the call of their heart. And it's not easy at first when it feels like it goes against everything you have been told you should do, or yeah, the mind, the voice of the mind. So yeah, I just want to acknowledge you as well.
Thank you. So one of the first questions I always ask is, what does it mean to you in practical terms? How does life change when one begins to truly live from the heart, powered by the divine, powered by the heart, whatever word you assign to that? What does that mean to you?
It's actually so difficult to know what it's really like to embody and live from the heart moment by moment, every moment, and anchor that frequency. Because to me, our entire world, like 99% of the world and all our lifetimes, we have been living from the head. And the head guides us in terms of not just thinking what we should do or don't, but from fear, from the lack-based programming, from trying to control and make sure you're feeling safe and enough in this world. And I think you can look at it as living in the head is like the 3D or the matrix programming that we have built our realities from, this mind-based perspective and frequency. And it takes a lot of courage. It's almost like a leap of faith into the total unknown to choose to listen to the heart, live from the heart. And I'm still on this journey. I have definitely felt what it's like to listen to the nudges of my heart and live from that frequency. And now I know when my heart is open, all the worries and lack and programming in the mind kind of fade away, and you experience literally a higher dimension, a new reality of more bliss and peace and inspiration. But what I think a lot of people are experiencing is these moments where your heart is truly open and you are in a higher dimension. It can be when you're in ceremony or meditation or walking in nature and you feel that. And it might last for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 1 hour or 3 hours, but then you drop back into the mind, or yeah, go back up into the head, right? And people are experiencing this dip, this ebb and flow. And to them, it feels like, when you're in the heart, it feels expansive and you actually have this deep trust because your heart and your soul resides in complete trust. But when you dip out of that, it can feel like all the doubts are coming louder than ever before. The fear that you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do that, that's crazy, or you shouldn't follow your heart. And yeah, listen to it. And this is the seesaw between doubt and trust that we are all experiencing on this ascension journey. And it's not just a question of, should I listen to my heart? Is it safe to listen to my heart? Because that's a question from the mind. It's more so, do I choose to follow the nudges of my heart in every moment, allow myself to come back to my heart instead of feeding, I guess, or moving from what the mind is telling you to do. And this is, I'm still experiencing this now because the mind is very loud and we know this. And even in the smallest things, it tries to control.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And it's exactly what I speak to, I teach in every day with clients groups, with everywhere, with everyday friends and strangers. It's that course correction that we have to engage in. We get to engage in as part of this evolution, right? Because it's great to be in ceremony and meditation, but the long pauses between get filled with questionable choices and behavior and thoughts. And it's that self-awareness that we get to bring to this life, that conscious being, that conscious awareness of reflecting on the state of consciousness, the energy that we are moving with, and making a choice. Okay, I'm out. Time for the heart. What do I have to do? What do I have to do to get back into that? But do you find that once people experience that true magic of being in the heart, living from the heart, that magnetism, that wonder, that awe for this life that comes from that frequency, that heart consciousness frequency, they become more motivated, more addicted to it, I guess? Was that your experience?
Well, in the beginning, I didn't even know what it felt like to feel my heart. So I was in Silicon Valley. That was my old career, total burnout, hustle mode. And when everything kind of imploded, and I had a huge wake up call because I was waking up with, panic and anxiety every day and working so many hours and in total burnout mode, I had this wake up call and yeah, I decided to leave that job. And the first thing I really felt when I was walking in nature, I started journaling again and I said to the universe, show me the power of my heart. If it's true that, you hear of these books and people saying, if you follow your heart, if you listen to the nudges of your soul, then that's the timeline that opens up synchronicities and magnetism and everything coming in for you. And I knew about that to a degree in my life because I applied it even in achieving my old goals, but I really didn't know what it felt like to let go and surrender and let my heart lead me. And you're right, like when you don't know what it's like, there's a lot more doubts because you're facing this cliff and you don't know if it's safe to take a leap into the unknown. And it's almost safer, even if you want to try to follow your heart, to keep the old safety net, the old comforts. And yeah, for me, the more I took baby steps towards the nudges of my soul, my heart, and some of them were really tiny, like start journaling again, start a blog, share your writing, or just go for a walk in nature, and suddenly ideas would flood in and my heart would open and I just find some peace from that constantly anxious fight or flight mode I was living in. And the more I took these baby steps, of course, there was doubt and fear with every step, but I also saw the momentum picking up and things opening up and synchronicities coming in. And it wasn't like this every day, but it gave me more trust and more confidence in myself and more confidence in, I guess, the universe and how this universe works. And this is your universe, your creation, but you have to kind of believe it first to see it, or be willing to take a tiny step in order to see what that feels like. And sometimes you might not have outer physical results yet. The only thing you have guiding you is the feeling inside of expansion or inspiration or new life coming in and excitement. And to me, following that was worth everything because I thought, let's just look at this life as an experiment. Let me just try this. Worst case, I fall flat on my face. I have to go back to Silicon Valley, find a full time job. I was still consulting and working part time remotely to keep that sense of safety net because for me I wasn't in full trust or belief enough to completely let go of the old safety nets, but I did give myself more spaciousness and time to be with myself, and that's when you will start hearing the voice of your heart more and more.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And when you mentioned the cliff, a lot of the time we are not, some of us are being asked to jump off the cliff, but some of us are just being asked to step on the next stepping stone that is lighting up, that is appearing to cross the stream. And a lot of the conditioning keeps us back from stepping onto it, but the heart is like, come on, just this one step and watch what happens next and watch what happens next. And when you were talking about the nudges and the starting to see things, the other thing I was hearing, and also stay connected to the dreams that your heart is placing there, because if the heart is placing the dreams, they're yours to have, they're yours to live out truly. And my guides always say dreaming creates that blueprint of, and dreaming not from the mind, not dreaming of, oh, I should want this, or because this person has this, this will make me happy too. But the dreams that are coming truly as this, for the highest good of all, for the highest expression that we are here to have, connecting to those and really staying with them. And I know you and I connected actually because we were seeing a very similar dream around land. And ever since we had that conversation, something else has been dropping in for me, this title of an earth keeper. And it's somebody who lives protecting the land that they own, in,
Mm.
in quotation marks, own, because we really don't really own anything. But we are the keepers of this beautiful piece of nature, piece of the Gaia's body, that we are, a lot of us are opening portals into 5D, with into new earth. So I wanted to sway the conversation in this direction because I know many listeners are avid travelers to sacred places and are being called or have already started birthing these retreat spaces or these, whatever the pieces of land that they are working with, that they're keeping, that they're protecting. So I would love to hear about the property that you live on, that the vision you have for it, and yeah, just allowing you to speak to that.
I love this story because this is truly an example of, I think the dreams of the heart are not really as physical, concrete goals that the mind would think are really beautiful dreams. They're more so a feeling and how you want to feel, how you want to be, how you want to move through life. And yes, this vision of the new earth, but more so how that feels in your body. And to be honest, I never could have imagined we would have stumbled upon this sort of life living on land in the countryside, 55 acres of beautiful forest. And I never would have imagined the capacity of what we could create on this land. And like you say, as custodians, as earth keepers of the land. But in another sense, I think it was a true co creation with my husband, my then boyfriend at the time. Or, yeah, we found this land 3, 4 years ago in 2020 when everything locked down in the world. And we both, yeah, had to learn to fully surrender, to let it in. And it was a time when we had to cancel our trip to Japan to meet my grandparents because the borders in Australia shut. And we were living in Perth at the time in the city. But that was a huge, massive time of awakening and really inner awakening, going deep for me and Joel, my now husband. And we, yeah, we're opening up to a whole new world. And just by whim, we decided to drive down to this little town I never heard of called Denmark, Western Australia, not Europe. And it's 4.5 hours south of Perth, this countryside, seaside town. And I'd never heard of it, but we were here just on holiday. And Joel is really into looking at different properties, and he's a big dreamer. And I think he holds this energy of believing these big scary dreams can be possible, because if it was just me, I wouldn't have taken such a huge leap of faith, I think, to own land like this. But he grew up on a farm, and he's really, yeah, beautiful with his vision to work with the land, and he feels at home on, yeah, land and nature. And I guess the co-creation of both of our energies brought us to finding this property. It was randomly open, what's it called, for viewing. And yeah, we drove in, and the first thing I see is tall trees, this beautiful dirt road over a little creek. And we turn in, and there's a giant dam. The sun is shining, the trees are being reflected on the dam, and a tiny little cabin. It looks like a fairy tale. And you can hear me. There's a video of me actually, because I was just filming for some reason, and I was like, oh my God. And you can hear my inhale, and it just looked like a piece of magic. And there wasn't any thought. It was just more so we fell in love with it literally at first sight. And it had been listed for sale for over a year, I think. And I couldn't imagine why it wasn't snapped up already, but we were lucky at this time too. The market was down, and yeah, we got it at a really beautiful price. And it went through, I'm trying to remember, like a few months of negotiations where we were like, oh my God, are we really doing this? Because this is crazy. We don't know anyone in this town. Well, we knew maybe 3 people, but yeah, we don't know what the town's like. We don't know if we'll love it. We don't know if there's going to be community here. We knew it was kind of like an artsy, aging hippie town, but we didn't know if there would be a new wave of, yeah, families and people, yeah, aligned and truly aligned coming down here or living here. So it was a total leap of faith. And of course, we had to move through the process of our fears and, can we actually pay for this? And is this smart? Because we did everything was counterintuitive at that time. Sorry, this is a longer story, but during that time, we had this magical experience of 10 days where both of us had felt like we just slipped into a higher dimension. It was palpable. It was almost like, did we take a drug? But we didn't. We were totally sober. And for 10 days, it was like truly living from the heart, total peace, no doubt, no thought. It was really magical. And during this time, I think Joel got the clear voice inside that told him, you need to quit your job, because he was working a conventional job in the mining industry, night shift and day shift and crazy hours. So around the time we signed the property, he quit. He put in his notice, and we were like, this is absolutely crazy. We have a mortgage now, but now he's quit. And at that time, he was supporting me as I was still in the early stages of writing my book, and my community is very small online, and we had no evidence. But we had this trust, this voice, this knowing, and we did follow that. And you did ask, sorry, I'm getting back to the question now, of this land was zoned for tourism. So it's already approved, in a sense, for plans to be submitted to make it a retreat center, or you can build up to 8 chalets on there and your own home, of course. But to me, this all felt really big and scary, and I don't know how this is going to happen, but it seems like, yeah, this land also called to us. And I remember there was one day before we fully went all in on putting in an offer, I put my hands on the tree, my hands on the land, and asked it, almost for permission, or can we be custodians of this beautiful land, because there is an energy to this land, and you hear the birds, the frogs, the crickets, and yeah, we just really asked almost for permission, or this yes from the land itself, and we did feel that, so it felt like a co-creation with the land as well. Yeah, and right now we're in this tiny cabin. We've cleaned it up, but our plans are to build our future home up on the hill. There's a clearing up there to make this area a retreat temple space for community to gather. Joel wants to build a cafe and, yeah, a kind of community space. We have lots of dreams, lots of visions, and know how it's going to happen again, but there is this deep trust. And when people ask us, okay, what are you doing with the land? What are your plans? Like my family, especially, like, are you putting together development plans? We're really not. Mm, we've been really tuning into the timing for that and trusting the timing for that. We're not trying to force or rush it from the mind, because somehow deep down we know it's going to come together in a way beyond what we can imagine. And it has to be at the right time in our life, the energy of the land as well. So for some reason, this is one thing that I'm not really trying to force, and we're not really trying to get ahead of ourselves with. And it feels right. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this most beautiful, inspirational co-creation story. And when you were talking before, you mentioned that others ask you about it. I was hearing, we have time, they have time, they have time,
Oh,
they have time. It's
yep.
like, and just trusting in that things can happen as magic beyond your wildest dreams, that suddenly the right people show up and volunteer time and money flows because it's the right time, and everything is. And that's really one of our biggest lessons, right? Is to not push, to allow the co-creation process. One of the things I work with, one of the big things is working with elements, and how there is this different time and energy and consciousness for different stages of creation. And a lot of the time we're being asked to be in that water, in that void, in that womb, in that incubation time for a long time before air can blow in and bring that, okay, it's go. We got the green light. Let's go. And then air passes quickly, it turns into fire. And then before you know it, it's all manifest in the physical with the earth element, and it's here to enjoy. And sometimes if we push, if we try to bring all of these elements and all of these things that it's not ready for, it'll be exactly that. It'll be a push. It'll be like pushing this giant boulder up the hill instead of watching the magic unfold with everyone going, how is this happening? How is this happening for you so fast? Like usually per all of these legal things take 6 months or 8 months, and yours got approved in 2 weeks. What? And it's like, yeah, because it was, the energy was just right. It was that window that we, and it can only come when we are really in that void and that receptive, open, not rushing and trusting energy. So
And of course, we'll take action. So people are
yes,
gonna, your mind's gonna say, well, if I just sit around and trust, nothing's gonna happen. Like
right.
I still have things to create, right? But this is what I'm really leaning into, especially now in my life. There's a deeper level of trust available now, where things can actually come in with more ease. Like, of course, you can build it the old way of hustle and pushing the boulder up the hill. And that's the way you're comfortable with, because your whole life you have achieved things doing it that way and being a perfectionist and controlling and planning and organizing. But now I think we're also energetically at a level where, just because that was true for us in the past, doesn't mean this is the most optimal way to move forward in our life with. And there's a whole new energy available of miracles, instant magnetism, things happening and flowing with ease, and you following the nudge. And how do we know it will actually work better unless we let ourselves open to the possibility? And of course, when it's right, you will be inspired and you will move. But that's when, like you say, things fall in with perfect grace and ease. And it's hard for me still because I'm such a perfectionist. I see how much my mind is attached to how I've lived my life and what has worked for me, and even the qualities that have helped me get to where I am. Being a high achiever, motivated, driven, organized, planning has helped me. So my soul now is nudging me to let that go, and it is absolutely terrifying. And this is the energetic leap of faith. It's not a leap of faith of your job or do something. It's not a physical leap of faith. It's more so full faith that you will be held once you let all this programming go. And even for me now, it's like, as much as I have found flow and rhythm and ease from the way I do things, like my writing, my ceremonies, part of it's still a level of trust and flow from the mind trying to flow and trust. So there's another level or frequency available where I let that go also. And literally, it's a moment by moment tuning into my higher self. Okay, higher self, what should I do now? And of course, you are your higher self, but that higher part of you. And if I'm not nudged or inspired to write anything or post anything, I'm not going to do it. And I have gotten better with this, of not forcing myself to post every morning because that's what my audience expects, or and whatever my mind thinks I should be doing to quote unquote grow, or all of these things that are the old way of looking at business and growth and all this. But now it's a deep honoring and actually sitting with the discomfort of when I don't take the action my mind is telling me to take. There's a lot of lack or not enough or I need to do more, I'm lazy, all those stories coming up. But that's what I need to let myself feel, because in feeling that, you're actually clearing lifetimes of control, lack, scarcity, not enough programming. And until we allow ourselves to kind of do the counterintuitive thing, you don't actually get to sit in those emotions before you go into fix it mode. I need to do more because I'm feeling lack, so I need to do more so I feel good about myself. All of this is woven so deeply in our psyche. And yeah, it really takes a lot at first of, yes, conscious effort to bring my awareness to, hold on, why am I doing that? It's not like what you're doing is wrong, it's why you're doing it, where you're coming from, and just checking yourself. And actually, on days when I do this and just resist rushing, forcing, planning, I'm find more presence, more spaciousness. I am nudged to sit outside in nature without my phone and just be. And that's when sometimes inspiration comes through, or I feel my heart opening and I'm like, oh, this is the new frequency I want to create from. This pure inspiration or wanting to share love with the world. And yes, I have done that to an extent, which is why I think people really feel my energy and my words and feel my heart. But there's always another layer to surrender into.
Thank you for bringing that forth, because I think a lot of the listeners will look at you and say, oh, she's got it all figured out, she is, she is perfect in some ways and all the things. But we all have layers and layers and layers of that same programming, of that same thing to unfold, and to unfold, release the layers, peel off, and letting it go. And not forcing writing and all the things. I was seeing you going outside, and then you mentioned going outside, and I was seeing that water that is in front of your cabin, and I was literally seeing you becoming one with the water, and them saying, see, from this place, new ideas, new seeds can begin to grow and reveal themselves. And here's your idea for the book, or here's your this, here's from this, not from forcing the writing. And I think a lot of the people probably look at you and say, oh, she's such a prolific writer. She's such a prolific content creator. And consistency has its, like, there's a piece of the mind, but there's also the heart that keeps nudging you, right? And I think that comes through so beautifully with you, where it's not forced, it's not overthinking, it's not the mind speaking, that it's always the heart that delivers that message. And that's why it touches people, which brings me on to this next subject I wanted to touch on. I teach this group container, this program, the Pyramid Codes, which is a mix of energetics, quantum business with practical business solutions. And we actually used you as a beautiful case study of how you built this foundation that and the business that wasn't based on trading time for money with services, as a lot of the healers and coaches and mentors do. You build a foundation of trust with your posts, with your book, with your art being your soul frequency, just going out into the world and trusting. My guess is trusting that that will be what fuels the future of your business, the future of abundance. So, couple of questions I have. What is that I know the listeners are also dying to know, for somebody starting out on their journey of stepping into their role of a creative or healer or their soul mission based business? What are some of the tips, tricks, pitfalls to avoid? What wisdom can you share with them?
So, what's really interesting, and this is only my story, it's like you don't have to do it my way, but what's really strange is I started off not even thinking this is a business, or not even thinking this is a soul led business. So, I didn't have that concept or motivation behind even posting on my blog or Instagram. It was truly, I remember the feeling, and I still have it now, which is why I'm able to write, I guess, consistently, because the pure driver or intention behind it is to, honestly, I love the feeling of writing, because to me it's like receiving spirit and energy and bringing it down into form, and the ahas I have myself of translating spirit into form, or better understanding what's going on in my energy, or translating my zest for life into words and putting my love into words. I have loved this from a young age because I loved journaling from age 8. And for me, it's my art, it's my way of feeling my heart. And I did it for a long, long time just for myself, like my own journaling. I never shared it. I didn't have the courage to share it on a blog or anything. I do feel like there came a point where I wanted to overcome my fear of being judged and seen as crazy or too woo woo or too airy fairy. So I think that was also there as an ingredient in pushing me to start a blog. And this is like a real, not Instagram, just a website back in 2017. And it was the scariest thing even to hit publish. You know, so many times I was in the fetal position, just feeling my vulnerability and feeling so like almost ashamed, like I want to delete it right away, even though no one's really reading it. So it was part of me wanting to share my heart with the world. And also, yes, your soul does nudge you, because your soul knows what you came here to be, not to do, but to be the light you came here to shine in your unique way that only you can shine. And yeah, from a young age, I also had this kind of inner knowing of I'm here for a reason, or what's the meaning of life? Like, I want to create my own meaning in this tapestry of life, and my own mark, I guess, in this corner of the world. And those things combined kind of inspired me, or nudged me to keep sharing, because the feeling when I would write, and the feeling of having people read it and the beautiful comments, even though at first it was only one or two people, including my mom reading it. But that was the main reason. And I never thought of myself as a content creator. I never really tried to follow the 10 Instagram hacks on how to grow, you know. Of course, I would intuitively, I guess, using common sense, do what felt right. But it was more so from this love of sharing my heart and seeing the art of it in front of me. And the big thing here is not everyone is wanting to experience their soul as a writer in this world. Your flavor might be speaking, right? When you talk to friends and you're in that flow state and you're maybe it's your voice, so maybe it's videos for someone, or maybe it's drawing and painting, or cartoons or whatever, and putting that up, or educating in their own way. Or we all have a million different ways we well, there are billions of different ways you can be you in this world. And for me, things started shifting and momentum started coming in, and people started following more when, one, I asked myself, how can I show up in a way that's more me? Not trying to copy all the other cool looking Instagrams and their aesthetic, but what's my unique flavor of my soul? And trying to bring that forward in a way that excites me most. And one of those was, instead of doing mostly selfies with a small caption, because I was hiding, I was afraid of sharing my writing more widely. So I didn't want it to be the forefront picture. I switched to putting my writing as the main image and putting it boldly, and 10 pages of it, 10 slides of it. And yeah, that was one. But the second thing behind that is working on my fear of being seen. And we all have this. There's probably 10 people you can count who, especially you think of like, oh, I don't want them to see me say this. And often it's old colleagues, family members, extended family, your partner's family, right? People who have known you or see you in a certain way, and you bearing your heart and soul and energy in the way that makes you light up feels scary. So for me, it was really moving through that fear of being seen by sitting in, whenever it was triggered, like back then, when I get a negative comment, I'd suddenly go into a vulnerability, hangover, bubble, whatever it's called, and really feel it and curl inward, and I feel my energy contract, and I feel so bad about myself, and I feel so stupid and embarrassed, and I let myself feel that, the grungy, squirmy emotions. And instead of, often when we feel bad, we kind of usually either resist it, suppress it, distract yourself, scroll your phone, do something else to take your mind off it. But I really sat with it almost as a meditation and let myself feel the grunginess. And I realized at the core, it was my own fear of seeing myself, my own judgment of myself. It reminded me of times in elementary school when I was made fun of, or I answered the question wrong and I felt stupid or whatever. And all of this came up. And this is a sort of inner child healing, but it's really being aware and bringing your breath to that and breathing into the emotions. And it slowly shifted, it slowly lifted. I found some more compassion for myself. And literally, I think the next day, I had this peace, and I'm not afraid to be seen by more, or I'm not afraid for my writing to reach far and wide. And that's when the momentum of people finding me increased. And it was very palpable, but it was the inner energetic shift, nothing to do with the physical, what I was doing. So I hope that's helpful. It's usually whatever creation of your business or following your heart, whatever lack or fear or doubt that brings up in you, that is exactly the portal into shifting that for yourself and all lifetimes. And that is the energy you need to sit with and feel and let yourself breathe into and welcome instead of resist, because you will find you are a brand new person. You show up in a different way after you do that.
You come out as the alchemizer of that. You alchemize it and you come out on the other side as this freed and more
Mm.
expanded version of you walking. And it feels like as if your heart again is asking you to go into the portal of it, to feel and be with it, to presence it, to name it, to not run away, to
That's my dog. Buddy.
because that's our humanity. You know, when we can address that, that's us being with our humanity and recognizing it and learning to love ourselves through with all of it, with all of the feelings. And another
Yeah.
thing for me that was coming up when you were talking was courage, connecting to always courage as the main quality of the heart, that
Mm-hmm.
courage for stepping into this role, courage in keeping the flame of your heart, of your soul burning within you so that it can power you to speak or draw or continue to share whatever in whatever way. And sometimes other, motivation or energy to keep going or whatever is so hard to connect to. And if we can connect to that courage, which I was hearing a lot through your connecting to
Mm.
the courage of the heart, to allow that to be the fuel that keeps you moving, our
Yeah,
courageous
because
hearts.
fear, like people are waiting for the fear to go away or the doubt to go away, and then they'll take the step. But it's
Mhm.
actually you have the fear walking beside you every step. So it's the courage you need to lean into. And I still get scared now, with every step outside the comfort zone, there is fear. But now I have found this level of trust with myself and life and the universe that I can lean into when I feel afraid. And it is truly a choice to step forward because your heart is so worth it. Mm.
So worth it. And the heart is also going to keep showing you that thing of you have to believe before you see, but once you start believing and taking action and really holding that frequency and course correcting yourself, the heart does show you more, so you are seeing more. So when you step outside your circle, outside of the comfort zone circle, you have so much more. Oh yeah, look how this has worked out for me, look how this has worked out for me, which
Yeah.
it does come, but we just have to find that again, that courage, that to trust and surrender in some ways, to and hold the hand of the divine that is constantly there, like, just trust, just hold me, just walk with me.
And it's crazy because the heart, the soul doesn't make sense. And it's not like the conventional way of building a business where you have a clear vision and a 10-step plan or a 10-year business plan. None of that would have worked for me because literally I had to trust and follow every little nudge and trust that that was leading to something beyond what I could foresee, of course. And for me, the baby steps looked like, okay, write more and share more. And then it was start painting again because I used to oil paint. And so I bought a canvas and paints, and started painting again without really knowing like what this was leading to, because part of me didn't feel like I wanted to be a full-time artist where I just paint, but it was another way of translating energy into form for me, another way of channeling my heart, my divine visions. And for me, it was again more about how I feel when I'm doing it, not what it looks like. And don't feel like you're going to be stuck in doing that forever. Like I haven't painted in 2 years, but at the time that was my way of, yeah, connecting with my heart and opening my heart. And it's crazy because all these paintings I did over a year and a half, I ended up being invited to do an art show and put prints up. And the paintings ended up in my book, my first book. And without the motivation of the art show, I wouldn't have painted like a flurry of paintings all in 1 year. Um, and then all of that artwork went into my book. And that was the purpose for that moment, right? And another funny thing is I started doing cacao ceremonies with friends in Perth with this group of friends, just girls' night, right? It's just for fun. And in those ceremonies, we slowly each had our own kind of role. One person would sing mantras, one person would open the circle, right? I would end up leading the energy clearing, the guided journey into our hearts. And yeah, we would sit together and let go of our fears, call in our dreams, just connect with our hearts, be in that presence. And I didn't know, I was just doing that for fun, but I loved the feeling, right? When I was sat in those circles. And I moved down here when we moved to Denmark. I did a, just to connect with these friends, we did a ceremony on Zoom and I ended up leading it. And it's like, oh yeah, we can do this on Zoom. We don't have to be in person to feel that energy. You feel like you're still experiencing that closeness and heart opening. And that inspired me to share it online for my community. And 8 people showed up, and it was still like a trial, but I felt good, really nervous, but it still felt good. And that led to me offering it to my community like a year later, and 70 people showed up, and then 100, and then 200. So that was not foreseeable. I was never like, I'm going to become a ceremonial guide or anything like that. And it only came from me continuing to follow the nudges of what I love, the spaces I want to create for myself to be in, right? And those things are the things that continue sticking and fulfilling you, because while you're giving to your community, you're also being fueled by the space you're creating or whatever you're creating. And this is the new way to fully be of service from the soul. You realize that, yes, you're putting effort in. Yes, it takes a lot to keep showing up despite your fears and doubts, but somehow who you become as you step into that is so delicious and fulfilling, and it brings you so much joy. And the community that comes to you from that energy is full of so much love and beauty, and you end up literally creating your experience of how you want to be on the new earth. It can happen now. So I wondered if that might help someone who's really wondering what they should be doing. It's like, what do you want to be? How do you want to feel? And it's not about coming up with a label or a title or a role, because these roles will morph and shift and expand. From the highest level, you are a light worker, and you can express that in whatever form you like, and it's going to morph and expand. And even I don't know what I'm going to be doing 5 years from now, but continuing to follow this unique expression that your soul wants to experience now, and trust that it will morph and expand and become better than what you can imagine.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashmi. I think that was invaluable advice in trust, but also in action, because
Mm-hmm.
you are an example of how you didn't just sit still and theorize it. You took action. And when those 8 people showed up, you didn't just go, oh, this is, this is not worth it for whatever, this is not worth it to keep going. And you trusted and you went with it. Okay, I'll come back to it, and really float with it. And I think that's the
Yeah.
invitation for all of us, really, to recognize when we are pushing, when we are trying to figure something out, when we're trying to attach meaning and labels and all the things to it, and course correct again, to come back to our center, back to ourselves. Okay, So, how can people find you and how can people work with you?
You can find me mostly on Instagram, so at ashmi.path. And I share my writing, I share whatever is inspiring me, my reflections, even in the stories. And my website, which you'll find from my Instagram, is ashmipatela.com. You can just put it down below. But yeah, my books on there, my monthly ceremonies are on there. So come play, come hang out. Yeah. I'm really grateful for this community of awakening, open hearted, beautiful souls. And I really feel like we're all going to connect more and more. And it can feel really lonely at times. And it can feel like you're the only one in your visible circle reality doing this. But to know again, there's millions of us and you're not alone. And yeah, to let yourself follow the crazy unconventional path of the heart and trust that.
Is there any advice you would give someone who is wherever they are on their spiritual awakening journey, where they feel alone and they're literally screaming into the void, send me my people, where is my soul tribe? How can I connect to, how can I find them? And maybe they're struggling with being afraid to be seen, to be judged by them. Is there any advice you can, because you did move to a new town where you didn't know anyone. How did that work for you? How did that work for you online?
It was really synchronistic and amazing. Of course, we took the leap and moved here because we felt the energy of the land. And within 2 years, there's been a flurry of hundreds of young couples and aligned people and hippies and artistic types and creative people. And yeah, it's a very spiritual town. And there's so many crystal shops in town. They've always been there. But like I said, the aging or yeah maturing hippie community has now even expanded to all these young people wanting to get out of the city and housing markets booming and all this. And so just trust that when you follow the nudges of your heart and you're listening to where you're being guided, your frequency, right? You embodying that frequency of who you are will attract whatever is meant to come in to meet you. And the more you keep honoring your heart and journey and opening your heart into those bliss, beautiful frequencies, you will notice more and more loving people in your reality because you're in another dimension. And they might not look like or act like or talk like you expect spiritual tribe to look like, but they'll be the loving souls. They'll be so sweet. Like we had a guy, we randomly ran into this beautiful man and he offered us free honey and just beautiful people, right? All around you. And it's your frequency that unlocks the next layer of that. But for some time, yes, you will be alone on this and feel like you are really going inward and facing yourself, because the flip side of that is you get to sit with that feeling of loneliness and realize that you are the one needing to give yourself more love, more validation, more comfort. Your heart is asking you to see yourself as that reflection of love, friendship, and community that you desire so much. So, yes, there is a part of the journey where you need to feel safe and held in your own being and not seek community from this lack or desperation. And that's when community will start coming in, and know that. And also put yourself in spaces where you will find that aligned tribe, whether it's online. There's so many beautiful spaces being held online, and gatherings and meditations and ceremonies, and also in person there's different things, retreats and ecstatic dance or whatever is going on in your community. But to let go of needing it to look a certain way, just because they look spiritual doesn't mean they're actually fully aligned with your heart. So open your scope of who you see as a potential really deep soul friend in this. And for me, that's also been actually seeing that my old friends, not all of them, a lot of them have drifted into different different lives, and that's normal. But actually, the friendships that started off heart to heart, soul to soul, are beautiful now, and opening up to that, even though they might not speak in the same language or talk spiritual stuff, they're still friends of the heart. So treasure those as well. Mm.
Thank you. And I resonate with this last bit so much. When we are in the beginning stages of our awakening journey, we can judge others as less evolved or less this or that. And at some point we realize, oh my gosh, these my friends or my partner who are so accepting, who are so loving, they are exactly that. They are love. They are exactly the people that I needed. It wasn't the more spiritual types that my mind was trying to connect me to. It was these people who love and see me, put see the light in me, see my heart with, and accept me with so much love. That is, yeah, it is one of the lessons of our spiritual evolution, to to
Yeah,
see to see everyone, to see the truth of who they are with all of that love and acceptance. Yeah, thank
yeah.
you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to share more of who you are with people, these friends, even if you think they might not fully understand your language. This is not about the outer awakening of, oh my God, the world's this and that, and have you heard this? That's the outer trying to convince. It's more so sharing vulnerably from your heart what you're moving through or what you're realizing, and realizing that they will actually relate to that core part. Like, just sharing, oh, I'm noticing I'm in my head a lot and I'm trying to be a perfectionist, and I notice when I'm in my heart more, this happens. People can relate to that, and we don't
Yeah,
give enough credit. So yeah.
yeah. I call that communicating to connect, like spiritual communication to connect, because so much of our stuff, we get excited about these guides and the tarot cards, the galactics, the this and that. And a lot of that speak can alienate. But what is the core? What is the most simplest, broken down spirituality? And it always comes back to love. It always comes back to the heart. In every religion, in every tradition, in the foundation of whatever priestess path, whatever training there is, it always comes back to this. And if we can share that with the person at the grocery store, or the driver that is upsetting us on the road, that opening ourselves up, and just that's what we're here for. And I think, again, when we're not that, we get in our heads, we're spinning. It's the stories, it's the trying to control, trying to change, trying to all the things. Okay, so last thing, Ashmi, I'm going to ask of you if there is a tool or something that you use to come back to your heart when you are feeling frazzled, overwhelmed, in your head, the perfectionist kicks in. Is there a tool you like to use to bring you back to your heart, to anchor you in that peace and in that love that we can share with the listeners?
Yeah, the paradox of this is, and yes, we live in the head and we feel like we're not in the heart, but the funny thing is to remember that you are a soul, you are infinite, you're always connected. So you don't need to do a whole practice to connect, because do you see, you have an assumption underneath that you're not already connected. So to let go of this seeking of trying to connect from a place of I'm not connected, or I need to meditate 10 minutes today, or else I feel bad about myself because I didn't connect, and recognizing, starting to bring your mind, your heart into realizing I am connected, I am source, I am one, I am enough. And yes, saying that to yourself can help you remember and drop back in to the feeling, that connection that already exists. And for me, the more I recognize this, the fewer practices I need to get into that space. Of course, sitting in nature, nature holds that organic blueprint of purity. So walking in nature allows me to remember again, right? And breathing, taking 3 deep breaths, but don't make yourself feel like you need an hour-long practice to get there when you're already there. Start seeing yourself as that embodied, connected light being that you are, and that will shift something in you that is seeking to remember that. So it's kind of a counterintuitive, yeah, process. But remember, you are it. You are this. Live from that place. See the world from that place. Be the love from that place. Yeah, and everything will bloom.
Thank you. And I don't know if you follow Paul Selig or if you ever have read any of his channeled work. His guide, the Melchizedek, have given this phrase, I guess. I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. And that to me is like that anchor that you're talking about. And he also takes it a step further and for the other person, I know who you are in truth. I know what you are in truth. I know how you serve in truth. And it's recognizing that divinity in the other person and lifting them up. And
I love.
yeah, and it's for me the other thing that I often say to myself, I am that I am all that I am love, I am, and it becomes this anchor, this almost like, yeah, it's not about going and meditating, and at this point, it's just about almost like a switch, like I'm seeing a switch needs to be flipped. Okay, I forgot just for a moment. I forgot that I'm that and that I'm connected, and then I open my heart again and all is good and all is good. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so like just noticing, oh, I'm in my head again. Oh, I'm feeding my fears again, and just noticing, not needing to do anything really to fix
Mhm.
it, but becoming aware. And this will start shifting where you come from.
And shifting the frequency and shifting the exterior, the outside world as a result of it.
Yeah.
Oh, Ashmi, thank you. Your website, your Instagram, the resources will be linked in the show notes. And I just want to say thank you again for taking the time today, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your beautiful heart, for unveiling a little bit more of your path and your behind the scenes with the listeners and inspiring us, really inspiring us and encouraging us. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have a feeling this won't be the last conversation together we have.
Thank you so much, Kat. And it's been beautiful. This is my first podcast thing that I've said yes to in a year and a half or 2 years. So, yeah, it's nice to experience who I am in this moment as well as we chat. So, thank you for holding the space and sending you so much love and your community also so much love.